Hello and welcome to Mountaintop Media. I will be doing yesterday's board report later today, but first, while I was at a board meeting, 6 months ago,
I think so.
we had a presentation on the rezoning of the speed limits on Shasta Lake, and some of what that group of homeowners up there was doing for the safety of the whole public, and the safety of the homeowners. And so I ran out into the hallway and we ended up having a conversation, and now we've reconnected because September 23rd, this will be on the consent agenda to be finalized. So today I have very special guests to discuss this, and we're going to deep dive into everything that's happened since that board meeting. So introduce us to what's going on and what you've been working on. And
my name's Barrett. I am current board member, former president of the Salt Creek Rec Residents HOA. So our properties up there are actually Forest Service land, but we have 20-year leases, and those leases, and we actually own the cabins. So it differs vastly as a community from private property communities, and if I'm not mistaken, the program was initially set up to support troops that were coming back from wars in perpetuity, and to give them a chance to reconnect and have a small home, because we're limited on how big they can be, et cetera. The one thing that I would say is, as much as yes, and because I've been up there for 50 years, mom and dad bought a cabin and a boat before they bought a home for us to live in. Realized how spoiled I was when I turned 30 and started having kids. But really, this is a collaboration between Shasta County Board of Supervisors, Shasta County Boater Safety, the Forest Service, and our HOA. Certainly, our HOA has played a pivotal part. And we've got a long history. My dad was the HOA president for 20 years. Desiree, his secretary while he was president, was board president for another 20 years. So we've been talking about this subject over the course of the last 40 years because of how rapidly and different the lake access is, boating access is, the types of boats, the number of watercraft, the number of individuals that are now using the lake. And initially, what got us motivated was we saw the number of close calls because as you come into Salt Creek, there's a section that was a no ski zone, and then the section that was a 5-mile-an-hour zone. For anybody that has a boat, and I'm one of those folks that likes to go fast, a no ski zone simply means that you're not going to have to deal with skiers, and you can go as fast as you want. And jet skiers, whether they're experienced or not, and the PWC market, et cetera, has exploded. And during the last 10 years specifically, with inflatable kayaks, inflatable stand-up paddleboards, all kinds of different, the floaties I wish that we had when we were kids, but the huge environments where you can have 5 or 10 people. So about 4 years ago, and with the help of Patrick Jones specifically, and obviously Reading was going through far greater issues, I approached him and said, hey, I think that we as a community could really use a win. Can we take a look at rezoning this? Because the number of close calls, we've seen the number of accidents that were never reported, in part because of the access to that location. And we started the process. And in that process with Patrick, and pardon me looking at my phone, but also David Rickert played a huge part in this, because both Patrick and David, as we really started drilling down, and after I'd made the presentation, as well as the VP at the time, but Kevin Cryer? Cry, great. All invested a bunch of personal time to actually schedule, and David and Patrick Jones specifically came up on a Sunday to actually look at it and make sure that what we were asking for is really more access for everybody, a safer platform for the sheriffs to enforce safety on the lake. And, as a young man that broke all the rules, I figured in my older age, might as well stand for what I saw as a clear issue. And obviously, steps have been taken with the boater safety certification to just give people the basics. But anybody that spends time on the lake knows that that's just not enough to have for experience to be safe. So we started this about 4 years ago. Fortunately, with the addition of Matt Plummer, he's been supportive of the transition from Patrick Jones and moving forward. And then also, we couldn't have got this done without Jen Rossi. And here, well, Jen Rossi, again, the head sheriff and the head of boater safety, when we really drilled down on the issue, the challenge was it couldn't access public funds because there weren't enough documented emergencies and responses. That's when our HOA stepped in and said, well, we see, and after it had been inspected, we see the public safety imperative, especially with how the lake fluctuates at this point. That didn't really used to happen. And so we simply worked with all four folks, the Forest Service, Shasta Sheriffs, Board of Supervisors, and us to say, what's the most cost-effective tool that we can use that the HOA can cover the costs? We are hoping that one of the local resorts that's on our arm, Salt Creek Resort, would participate. I'm still hoping for that. But we were able to make it affordable, and each of our homeowners chipped in and covered the cost of new buoys, the installation, all of that fun stuff. With the completion of that, and Jen reporting to the board that everybody's happy, and it's been a process, right? To get Forest Service, Shasta County sheriffs all on the same page when there are so many greater issues to deal with. This one, I think, is a feel good and an accomplishment because anybody that goes up there will notice an immediate difference. The buoys are in right now, but they're not enforceable. They're just trying to get the word out that, hey, things are changing. Right. And just with that difference, we've noticed a massive difference. And now I see people swimming back and forth across what lake there is to swim across because it's a 5 mile an hour zone, and more people that are fishing. And I fish, I hunt to a small extent, and I think it's going to make a massive difference for them as well.
Good. Well, that's exciting. And I mean, boater safety is only good if you take it, right? Like,
sure. If
you're renting a vessel, whether it's a houseboat or, a smaller boat, patio boat, any of it, your voter learning thing, you just have to have a driver's license. Right. It's like, here's the brake, here's the ignition, here's your wastewater, and
drive
enjoy your day.
In, right?
Like this, it's a 5-minute thing. And so people come up, and we've got college kids that come every year. People die on the lake every year.
Oh, for sure.
And it's sad. But hopefully this, makes it better for everybody. And I think you're right. It's a feel good. Yeah. This is somewhere that people can go and enjoy the serenity of the lake and the quiet and I love that. So there's not enough of that because we have a lot of crazy part on the lake. For sure. And so
ironically, I was the food and beverage director that opened Silverthorne after the government had taken it from Merle.
Okay.
His office was my office, which was a guilty pleasure that I really enjoyed. However, during those days, and that was 94, 95, all of the college kids, the U of O kids that were coming down and going absolutely ballistic. And I think the boater safety piece is even more significant with PWCs and especially folks that are renting them. And so just a little bit more an opportunity for people to be safer.
Right.
And plainly, and especially at this water level, or I would say anything below 30 vertical feet, and even still when it's full pool, coming around Salt Creek, it's fully blind. So all that we're really doing is eliminating the blind corners, making it similar to what you experience. Sugarloaf Creek is every bit as big as Salt Creek, and that whole thing is 5 mile an hour, and there's no homes, no residences, no access. So for us, when we made the presentation, and again for the support of Patrick Jones, and the CEO of the board spending their personal time to come up and go, because I'm a tournament water skier. I grew up skiing the water that I just made a 5 mile an hour zone, and it's some of the best skiing on the lake, or was. And for those guys to come up, and if I'm not mistaken, our CEO was a jet skier and loved that, and critical to make sure that we weren't limiting access, that we're actually providing more access for the people that are coming out.
Yeah. Well, and that's great. And you know what? I don't think that our CEO and our board members get enough credit for what they do, because they actually do get out in the community and do a lot. And a lot of the mainstream media likes to just tear into and sensationalize the drama, but really they are actively out in the community doing things. And so it's really nice to hear a story where everybody's worked together. Our sheriff has been a pleasant surprise. He's really, I don't think it's any secret that I campaigned against him. But he has been a pleasant surprise, and he's been really great to work with. And, he is doing a lot. Is he perfect? No, nobody's perfect, but he's doing really great. And so with working between those agencies and finding something that works for everybody, you guys really stepped up and did a lot. And our community needs to know that if you want change, sometimes that's what it looks like. You have to step out there and you have to make it happen, because not everybody's willing to do that. But I think our board overall is pretty.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be witness over the course of the last 4 years, all of the challenges, all of the struggle. And, in all of the industries that I've been in, most of them have been service industries or business development. If I would take the beating that then I'm learning all boards take,
right?
Because you can't make everybody happy. However, emotions have been heightened. We've seen so many challenges nationwide, let alone in the microcosm that is Redding and Shasta County. So yeah, the board deserves all the credit and especially, I'm fully aware this is a feel-good thing. I'm really glad it got done. I think it's going to yield results for the future for everybody in using and accessing the lake. And even with Matt Plummer, Matt's for the new president and executive officers within our HOA has been nothing but warm. Came up to Lakehead, and especially just to call a spade, there are a handful of people that own residences within our HOA that live in Shasta County and can vote for the board. And there's a lot of folks that are coming in from the Bay, from Oregon, from all kinds of other places. So for the board to look at a function that has so many nuanced relationships with the number of people that are accessing what we're standing for, and wanting to make a difference and taking the time to do it, and allowing an HOA to play some kind of role in motivating and participating and contributing to Shasta County was a good thing. Yeah,
well, and that's a good point. So many of the people that are up there, with that being their second home, they're not even voters. And
a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I would say there's probably a handful, like maybe 7 or 8 total. And because there's only 49 cabins that are up there. So not a whole lot of cabins, and a lot of them are legacy owners. I apologize. Do you have a tissue?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sorry to break.
No, you're good.
I'm not going to allow boogies to roll down my beard on a podcast.
We had a science teacher in high school, junior high. We all used to tease him that his beard was to hide it, because he would boogie pick and then wipe it up. And
so during the winter, I grow a full curly Q, vintage 20s. And literally the reason that I save it, I'm like, want to know what's not cute about crazy mustache? Boogies.
Yeah.
It's In any case, back to where we're jumping
my
in.
dad's working on that, because he does the full Santa. He's even having it bleached. He goes above and beyond.
I like that. Right on.
Okay, so yeah, so 7 out of 49, approximately.
Right.
There's nothing in it for them.
No.
So that's amazing. And our CEO, yes, nobody knows, because he's a guy in a suit, but he's, a thrill seeker. He served in our armed forces. He's got just such a rich, fun history.
Army, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Marine. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
I was born on Hill Air Force Base, but I didn't serve anything. So.
Awesome.
My dad did.
Yeah, I come from a military family. My grandfather was a master chief. Both of my uncles were in the Navy. or two of my uncles were in the Navy. Dad was in Vietnam. Mom worked for the military for 30 years. Needless to say, at the time that I joined, because I joined in 90, and Mom knew more about, she worked for a very specific division of the Navy. Needless to say, when I told them I joined the Marine Corps, they were a bit surprised and shocked. It was one of the best and most challenging experiences I've ever had.
Yeah. You know, I've joked before on here in other conversations, but I went to a very small school. I grew up in Corning. And so, you know, anybody new to town is exciting, right? Sure. And I'm just a social butterfly. So the recruiters would come all the time, and I would always want to talk to them, because who doesn't want to talk to them, you know?
Uniform.
Especially the Marine recruiters. They were great. No. And I told them, if you can find me combat boots with a heel on it, I'm in. Well, they showed up one time and they had them. And I was like, crap, now I have to sign up. I wish that I would have, because I graduated high school and I was in such a hurry to become June Cleaver. Like, I thought, I'm going to graduate and I'm going to be a mom instantly, and like just a white picket fence and then, you know, apple pie every day. And that would be me. And I really wish that I would have taken the time to go into the military, because one, I definitely could have used the structure and the, you know, but two, I would have taken the time to find myself, because jumping headfirst into like the first nice thing that comes along, how many times does that backfire in life, right?
I've done it a couple of times in different environments, not always in relationships. But for me, and especially it's been interesting as a professional and growing older, having kids, you know, with the RSV or what we used to call a resume. And, you know, education, Marine Corps. And then, you know, fortunately, I spent running restaurants and leaving that industry. I spent about 5 years in experiential education, working with special populations and walking through a whole nother process of ideology. You know, how do you really care for physically, mentally, emotionally challenged, let alone youth at risk, and be able to hold all of it in a pretty big basket and be safe more than anything else? Because what we were doing was ropes courses, adventure programming, you know, providing experiences for those special populations outside of a traditional school experience. And the combination of the Marine Corps and then learning to become a teacher and really understanding what I had to give definitely shaped me. And fortunately, I didn't start having kids until I was 29. So gave me for folks that have my mom and dad that had me young and figured it out on the way, and anybody that is a young adult that's choosing to be a parent, my hat's off to them, and try and cheer them on as much as possible, because you know, I was trying to figure it out when I turned 30 and still flailing. So
I know. No, it's an interesting thing. You know, one of the country singers came up with a song about what it's like growing up with your kid. Like, we'll grow up together. And I kind of feel like that's how I am with my 15-year-old, because I was 21, but I was so not ready. I thought I was ready to be a mom. I was a nanny of 5 in high school. I was like, I got this. I'm the community babysitter. I know. When you don't get to give them back at night, it's a whole different game. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, and our community, not just our community, our country needs so much more of those programs. Like, another thing that our board's working on and doing is they're working on an alternative custody program where anybody coming out of jail or that has an arrestable offense that's nonviolent, you know, no sexual predators, you know, they're building this alternative custody program, working with the city of Reading. The city of Reading has gifted them the property, working with the sheriff's department, but we don't have the money for the jail. So how do we do that? What does that look like? Well, they've compromised and came together on this alternative custody program, but we need something like that at all levels. We have a school to prison pipeline that's insane. We have so many local youth and we live in a society where they're just, you know, there's no accountability, and they're being raised by iPads and Xboxes, and both parents are working. And
you hit the nail on the head for me, 100%. Because to come out of working with special populations and I did an internship for the Breckenridge Outdoor Education Center when I was 27, which just made me the old man then, working with 19, 20-year-olds. However, even and that was 97, 98, and cell phones really weren't a thing as much as they became within 5 years of that. However, and growing up around here, and my grandfather and additional family up on Sims Road, back in those days, it was what kid had a car because they were heading to the lake, they were heading to the river. They're sure they may be doing other stuff and get in trouble and potentially, making bad decisions. I say potentially because I'm referencing myself. But those days are now gone. And in large part, unless you have families that are inviting, and having split time between Shasta and the Bay, went to school down in the Bay and was up here every weekend, every summer, all over the mountains. But the number of kids as I started working with special populations and adjudicated youth that lived in the Bay, and I mean San Francisco, that had never been to the ocean.
Right.
And we're talking 20 blocks, 20 blocks to one of the best beaches in California. And that, especially for rural communities and the challenges in rural communities that I see of eliminating so many hunting, fishing, wilderness programs for kids that used to be integrated into school. When I was in school, there were different high school, but there were the 4-H programs and animal husbandry and all of that was integrated into the schools.
Yeah.
And with funding and the challenges, so much of that is gone. So, I'm torn. Salt Creek has been known by this local community as a great place to access forever. And certainly as O'Brien and Shasta Marina, there's so many places that even Shasta Lake City, which is hilarious to me because that used to be Central Valley to me.
Everybody that's like pre a certain age knows it is Central Valley. I still call it Central Valley.
But, there's still so much great access. And especially now, kids that even if you have a bike, you can, and you're fortunate enough to have a parent that has the opportunity for a couple $100 stand-up paddleboard.
Right.
To be able to put that phone down and or create content. I'm not, thank God for podcasts and this free media explosion that's happened through the internet. And obviously there are benefits and challenges to that, but I feel like I'm so much more well-informed, and it depends on what those kids are plugging into. But, between Steve Ranella and Meat Eater and the reasonable conversations about hunting, fishing, hopefully some of that will transition into Shasta County specifically. I know Patrick's a huge advocate for that, and certainly so many others. But if this is one small way, if I see, new faces down in our neck of the woods fishing because it's safer, all the better.
Right. Well, and I love that. I love that that's the attitude of it, is this is safer, not just for us in our front yard and our, because sometimes, and I mean, let's be honest, it's an HOA. 100%. They don't have the best reputation. I live in an HOA, right? And I'm so grateful. I have amazing friends that had a rental home at the time I was moving out on my own. I have no yard to take care of. I miss having a yard, miss having a garden. But I have no yard to take care of, which is good because I have no time.
Garden in all your spare time.
Yeah.
Right.
But we have nighttime security. We have the HOA provides so much good. But, there's also my kid left out the basketball hoop and I'm going to get a fine. And,
That's the fortunate part that I'll say about Salt Creek. And again, I have to acknowledge my parents, Gene and Gail and Desiree, that have been guardians of our HOA within the Forest Service, because these programs, these Forest Service rec residences are nationwide. They are all over the place. And because of both the way that I think my mom and dad's values for sure, and Desiree's as well, because we've all been up. Desiree and I are about the same age. Mom and dad are a little bit older. We've done a great job in keeping our HOA dues some of the lowest, if not the lowest, in the entire state, because we're not creating
You're not a legislative
ridiculous
body.
Opportunities. Yeah, and in fact, what guides our HOA is the Forest Service. We're guided
Right.
by our permit from colors to the houses. So it's not the HOA going, hey,
Yeah.
all the nightmare stories.
Yeah.
It's still an HOA. It's a community. People are going to disagree, and especially as
Yeah.
new people are coming into our HOA now and things are changing. Well, they're attempting to. People, unfortunately, really don't understand what it's like to have the Forest Service as a partner. And
Right.
we as Salt Creek have made a massive effort for 50 plus years to have an awesome relationship as the Forest Service has become more regimented, more documentation oriented. Obviously, this year we've seen so much change as far as
Right.
the staff. But our values are work with the Forest Service, have a great relationship, maintain as minimal fees as we possibly can so that people that are buying these places have more access and have more of an opportunity to enjoy the American dream. Because, the gripe that I will have is the folks that come in that are like, oh, this is a great deal and I like the location and we can just tweak this a little bit and put a parking lot in there and build out a bunch of infrastructure. This is going to be awesome.
Right.
I've always wanted this.
I've always wanted a resort of my own.
Right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the reality of that and working with the Forest Service and really understanding what a rec residence is, that the priority is preserving the forest while providing access, right? That creates some conflict, and you're always going to have people that disagree, and just like any other family or community. But fortunately, with us and the Forest Service, we've got a great relationship. We have a long history of people that have been active on our board for a long period of time.
Right.
So we're able to respond somewhat, I think, responsibly, and even when we disagree, respectfully.
Yeah.
And just acknowledge that we're going to agree to disagree. And our charter, for lack of a better term, I don't know that the Forest Service would call it that, but certainly for us as an HOA, it's to provide our members as much access as possible, facilitate any maintenance or requirements that the Forest Service is asking for, and again, to keep our fees low and keep the drama as low as we can.
Mitigated as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's amazing. And I love that you said that. You can now at Costco, I think they were like under $200, get those pump up, stand up paddle boards.
Yep.
A kid can stick it in his backpack, ride his bike up there. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And now you've created an area that is easily accessible, but is safe, because that's I've got a 15-year-old boy. My biggest fear would be, you're going to Shasta Lake to do what?
Right.
Because even now he goes out on the houseboat with his, my ex-in-laws and his cousins, and they go fishing. And I'm like, I don't care how uncool it is. You're wearing a life jacket and you're, and
right there.
I mean, I might be a lame mom, but I only get one chance to have my kid. Right. And so the fact that you've made something that is safe where kids can access, just nature.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I totally agree. And it's the reason that I'm really hoping that Salt Creek Resort participates with us. And by the way, just to not put too sharp a point on it, but what our HOA did, we were able to go from a $5,000+ bid for new anchors, buoys, et cetera. But because of the partnership, I shouldn't say but, because of the partnership that we had with the Shasta County and the Forest Service, we were able to whittle that down to $2,500. So we're not talking huge money. However, when you have residences and seniors that are on fixed incomes or all that fun stuff, so for a relatively small amount of money, and hopefully we can split that with our local resort, I think it provides them all kinds of opportunities to have kid programs to fill the rest of their potential opportunities and have more people up there using the place. And not to mention, and you mentioned stand-up paddleboards, which are obviously more popular than ever. But for local folks that are working those programs, with the opportunity to put in at what used to be O'Brien, and the number of people that are into long distance, and long distance being 10 miles, anybody that's spent any time on a SUP it's a full body workout.
Yeah.
One that I need more of. But
You and I both.
there are opportunities to get our kids involved and have them using the lake and using the services that are up there. Everybody that's lived around here has seen the ebb and flow of Lakehead, of O'Brien, of Shasta, of Bridge Bay, for that matter.
Right.
The shining star, Silverthorne, and
Yep.
my memories are Mike Satterhoud's ski school, and I was a member of that ski school, and absolutely we went up to Silverthorne for pizza afterwards.
Right.
And, so much of those pieces have gone away. So if we're going to focus on rebuilding anything, I think the local resorts have an opportunity to say, hey, build partnership with sub-manufacturers. Obviously, I have a marketing background.
Right.
That's where I come from. But be able to set things up where you have intermediate levels for kids, opportunities to try out paddleboarding, have instructors come up, and tie it into a business model where everybody's winning and we're not relying on tax dollars. That's, in my opinion, that's the way to make Shasta work again, is to have people more engaged in the communities, more engaged in standing for what's right and good, and give our kids more of an opportunity to unplug.
I agree. And this board, again, they can give away free puppies on the corner and somebody's going to, come out and cry about the flea population and it's going to be, a nightmare. But they've been trying to build up community and all the things that make Shasta County great. And, travel and just the tourism aspect of it has been for so long not what it should be because nobody's pouring into it, right? So we're seeing things like these resorts that we remember as kids being, wow, that's so cool. And it was like Tahoe, really. And now it,
In large
go
part,
and
better than Tahoe.
Yeah.
For a bunch of different reasons.
And
safer than Tahoe.
Now you go and it's like, what is this? It's like a ghost town. And so if we can get everybody to just stop with the drama, get together and work together. You guys have been a great example of that. We can get people who are trying to pour into the community, like the Shasta Chamber, who are trying to promote tourism, to get these resorts and get some attention. I mean, there's no reason, and being, in and around the Bay Area, you probably know Apple Hill straight out of Sacramento.
Love it.
There's no reason why Shasta County should not be
100%.
Apple Hill, Tahoe, everything all built into one.
We only, as a family, our normal Thanksgiving tradition, because my grandfather was up on Sims, and that was home for us as well. And our family tradition would be to have Thanksgiving dinner, and then that next Saturday, head up, get a Christmas tree permit, and head up to the Alpine Lakes that are up above Trinity, and we would cut our Christmas tree up there. And I love Apple Hill and the harvest and all that fun stuff. We're one of the few areas that, and I'm sure there are more on the lake, but I know for sure we call them Shasta apples because they're wild native apple trees that are on small. There's only a couple left, and the deer this year have gotten them good. But I think, especially for what the board is doing, part of the difference in the balance is the hunting and fishing community. The way that these resorts had more of 3 seasons versus the 1 season that they have now.
Right.
And there's not, there isn't a lot that Shasta County can do. Obviously, we have plenty of hunters and fishermen in this community. So it's not like they can change what the state is doing. However, if we want to make a change with hunting and fishing, and access, it's getting the kids involved, and certainly adults, and the perfect example. And I've spent time with people in rooms and that are on that recovery process, and obviously Shasta County and recovery is a massive topic.
Right.
Providing them something worthwhile to spend their time, and
Absolutely.
And most folks that are in recovery at some point turn to giving back, at least from what I've seen. And, being able to, if we're a part of some small part of the community and making a contribution, that there are more resources for that, game on.
Yeah. I love that. And, you're so right. I have a friend that since high school, he was like famous on all the like crime pages. It's like, how did you go from football star to like you're breaking into everybody's house? But he just, I mean, he got a job at one of the lake resorts. He's clean. He's done everything you should. And now it's so amazing because you go on social media and he's getting his high from like driving a patio boat around and, you know, and it's like you can see this healthy glow of like he's living life out in nature. And, you know, we were talking a little bit about hope before. And when you're out and you're doing things and you're just, you know, being part of what is, you know, made for us, right? Like it's beautiful. Shasta County can be so tumultuous and so chaotic, but it's one of the most beautiful places in the entire
100%.
country. And if you just get out and enjoy it, being hopeful, being positive, there's so much evidence that you are a healthier person when you're, you know, and so get out there and do it.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And fortunately, at this point, being hopeful and having something to look forward to is both documented in prayer and science. It is ubiquitous. There isn't any question about it. And as you were referencing, Catherine Getsky is the UN Ambassador for Hope. She put an entire educational program together for hopeful cities. I think Napa is the most recent hopeful city. Reno has been a hopeful city. However, prior to those big initiatives where, you know, if there's anybody that needs hope, it's the folks on the board with the beating that they take. But where it started, they actually had the educational program rolled out in elementary schools in Northern Ireland and kids that had nothing to look forward to based on years of internal conflict, et cetera. And they have it documented. And if I'm not mistaken, there's been a couple other international schools. I know Catherine's working diligently right now to get it implemented into schools here in the States. And then we come back to great. And, you know, we don't have music in our schools anymore, or really PE in our schools anymore. Right. So it's a combination, you know, and I have to say, I grew up a Democrat this year or this past election so that I could vote for RFK. I converted to a Republican because not this, you know, controversial and may not be in alignment with your audience. In my opinion, our parties have changed dramatically.
So much so.
And again, the benefit of being raised by balanced parents, we looked at both sides always as family. Right. Because we knew one side wasn't right. You can't just say that thing. But if we can focus on tangible, incremental change and be standing for what's right and good with all the information about podcasts and the transparency of information that is coming out from people that are like RFK, that is standing for health and uncovering challenges that we have in our government. And as flawed and messed up as our government is, best in the world. Right. And being able to say that and be proud of the service, whether you're serving on the board, whether you're serving as a podcast host, but being engaged in your community and being able to be proud about it and hopeful for what's next. I think that's the most important task other than the critical healthcare crisis that U.S. is dealing with right now.
Right. Well, and, you know, RFK Jr. is tackling that. I'm part of Moms for Liberty, and we're doing. I know you say that it gets one of two reactions. But Moms for Liberty Academy is doing a lot with the MAHA movement and what's going on. And I dove into the new movie that he put out and his organization put out, Toxic Nation. And if you haven't seen it yet, you should. But it's insane. But you're so right? Like RFK, his whole family were Democrats. General Flynn, one of the, you know, greatest heroes of ever in the history of history, lifelong Democrat, right? Tulsi Gabbard, her whole family Democrats. Like, the thing is, a Democrat didn't used to be what a Democrat is now. And 100%. Republicans, you know, I grew up thinking Ronald Reagan was the greatest president ever. Republicans were not what Republicans are now, right? And so we're seeing such a huge cultural shift in politics. And Tanessa Audet, I don't know if you know who she is. She sits on our Reading City Council. She's been out in the public a lot talking about the budget crisis and stuff. And she did a short video clip that was on Instagram. I watched it this morning, actually. And she was talking about the need for balance. And I say this all the time on here. We are a conservative media company. We are extremely right-leaning.
Honored
We're
to be here.
extremely conservative. However, it takes both sides. I am so busy and my life is so chaotic. I need somebody who's worrying about saving the sea turtles because I'm not, right? And I love plastic straws. So I need somebody who's going to be, balance that, right?
Sure.
But in politics, we need that. And she was talking about that. And she said, it's like an airplane or a bird, right? If you are, and you have the right wing and the left wing, and I think that's
Sure.
why she was going there. But if you have the left that's leaning so far this way, trying to give to everybody, and you run out of resources and you're so unbalanced and you can't fly. Then you've got the right who is so unwilling for any change and anything new. And
Yeah.
they're right. And every little thing they're going to nitpick and fight. And yeah, there's plenty in the Republican Party that needs work.
And plenty in our, pardon me for cutting you off.
No, you're good.
Plenty in our electoral system and our government system. I think, and it doesn't matter what side you're on, we now see the flaws. And, when one of our Thanksgivings up in my grandfather's, and his little house is less than 20 yards from the railroad tracks. And it used to be an old railroad house. And snowing, whole family's up there. And there was a Latino family that was train jumping, trying to get down to Mexico because the winter had hit and jobs were not available and all that fun stuff. And it wasn't even a question of, oh, no. Like, they have kids. It's Thanksgiving. You're getting fed. Let's do this. Unfortunately, one of my uncles at the time was Latino, could speak fluent Spanish. And you're talking from that, most of my family was hugely mixed between Democrats and conservatives, or Democrats, Republicans. And I always giggle because all you got to do is go back to Lincoln.
Right.
What was Lincoln? Republican.
Right.
So I think the mission, and if we can be a model for how government agencies and private entities can work together, and the only piece that's missing in there, and I know Patrick Jones has been banging this drum for a while, is honoring the business people that are fighting the good fight, because there's nothing harder than being a small business owner. Even that term and some of the education that I have from Robert Kiyosaki was, are you really a business owner or are you self-employed?
Right.
And that can be argued all left and right. And I built a career out of taking startups from profitability from startup to profitability or fundability. And that process, the success rate is so small and it's so hard because for all of the reasons. And until we can quiet the alienating conversations with my mom and dad, one of the things that's been heartbreaking is the lack of opportunities for families to have a conversation and be respectful.
Right.
Totally disagree with you, and I'm going to vote, and I'm going to have my say for that. But to be so angry and so vile, and the division, and we've known this for our generation, my generation, and your generation, we're close.
Yeah.
I hope we're close. No,
We're close.
It's that outreach across the so sorry for that.
No, you're good.
That outreach across the aisles, and even Reagan. Reagan was a great president, especially for the time and how he came in and how we felt as a country. And Nancy made a bunch of really huge mistakes, and that drug policy and ramping it up even further, in fact, probably led to more addicts and more addiction issues. We all know the problems.
I agree. There was that whole other side of it.
It's a challenge, especially for the number of people up here in the northern country that were a solid resource for healthy cannabis medicine for all kinds of patients long before it was legal. But I think at this point, and to kind of bring it back is the pieces that I'm a part of and that I want to participate in is reaching across the aisle. Is I do, especially working so long in adaptive, I know how hard it. Fortunately for us, I have mostly, if not completely, healthy kids, and I feel so blessed for that, and I know what it looks like for single parents that don't have a silver spoon, that are looking at, if they want to take their kids snow skiing, it's a $200 lift ticket plus the equipment rental. And if there aren't programs and businesses that are supporting those, it's impossible for the parents to do it.
Yeah.
So, finding that way of reciprocity, and then the balance point, right, of I think what RFK is uncovering, and certainly Elon is controversial and can go all over the place, but really looking at where our money's going.
Yep.
Do we really want to be accountable? And if we really want to be accountable in our country, I hope for the first time that means accountability for everybody. And I think that's the thing that has been missing, and that for my generation we were disillusioned by. We were going crazy in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But saw so many dirty things that we knew just didn't feel right. And and I don't have answers for all those things, but the more, and you mentioned Liberty, Moms for Liberty. I need to be more educated. I know a bit, probably just enough to say something silly. But I think it's the moms that can reach across the aisle, and it's hard at this point. The number of moms that aren't talking when they have their kids going to school. I feel so blessed that all my kids are out of high school and living their lives, and now we're creating adult relationships together. And it was a huge blessing. My kid's mother found Waldorf education, which in general is a pretty, people consider it a very hippie education. Right. It's not at all. It's an early 1920s education from Rudolf Steiner. But to have all of these crunchy hippies, and then all of these business people that didn't want to put their kids in public schools but didn't have the money when the economy tanked for private schools. Right. We had a lot of people talking about what's best for the school, how can we make this happen, what's best for our kids. And I think, there's some great men out there. RFK are out there. There's some great men that I really respect. Rich Fetke and the Fetke Group and what they're doing to teach people passive income and to be balanced in life. Right. Amazing. However, men are I think, more flawed than women, and the natural inclination to be compassionate, and how women are taught that it's right or wrong, that it's part of your job to be compassionate for the majority of women. I think the sooner that women can start reaching across the aisle and be like, hey, we don't have to agree on anything, but what's best for our kids, and acknowledging that music, recreation, being in nature, in Waldorf, there's no bad weather, just poor clothing choices. Right. And for us, when we were kids, one of our favorite things when we were little that used to drive mom crazy, I'm going to go play in the puddles. Right. Okay, take your rain boots. Here's another set of clothes. We were prepped to go play and be outside. And the more, it's not a simple solution, and it's more complex with social media and the value system that kids are being, for lack of a better term, indoctrinated into about what they're looking at. 100%. So, and we're talking about much bigger issues than a little 5 mile an hour zone, but that safety in that 5 mile an hour zone, and what we stood for as a board, as I was president, and I think in large part still probably do, is making sure that we're safe, that we have access, and then we provide a safe access for everybody else. Absolutely. And that's what it's all about, right? It's about our community. It's about the future of our community, which is our kids. And it's about finally our community coming together. And this is one of those things. We got to take the wins where we can get them. Yeah. And this is a win. So how exciting. And I mean, it's got to feel good to be like at the finish line. This is September 23rd. You're going to be, Yeah, and to wrap, and again, Patrick Jones, our CEO, I'm embarrassed right now. That's okay. David Rickard. Again, their time and investment to make sure that this wasn't a grab for somebody's front yard. and not in my backyard kind of thing.
Right.
But to see the benefit of it and to take their own personal time to do it, I couldn't speak more. So yeah, huge win, and we're stoked about it. And the more that we can get information out there about what we're doing and make it safe for everybody, the better.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for
Happy
coming
to.
on.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully, we bring some tourism to Shasta County. And I would love to see the Salt Creek Resort partner with you guys. That would be awesome. So hopefully one of our viewers has that
I do
connection.
too. And
can...
that place is for sale right now. So, and I think a very reasonable price. I don't know what the business model or any of the details are. So,
right.
But then what I would say is that there are people that are invested in the community. The owners up at Sosdy's that also own Bass Hole Brews are a throwback to the values and making sure that you have a holistic approach to recreation and a safe approach. So there's light at daybreak, and certainly even this year, even with Mother Nature. I think we've been so blessed this year with the storms and to keep everything wet. And there's light that's coming.
Good. All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
Happy to.